Okay. Hi, my name is David Lawler. I am the Deputy Director of Development at the Climate and Wildfire Institute, and we are helping to organize and operate the Wildfire Ready Design Challenge. I'm joined here today by Patrick Farrell and Connor Farrell from Home Hardening Solutions, who are going to present to you all about the work that they do in the Grass Valley area. So I'll turn it over to Patrick and Connor to give a quick introduction of themselves and then walk us through the presentation. So Connor, Farrell, or Connor and Patrick, welcome.
Thanks,
Awesome.
David. I'm Connor Farrell, and I'm the CEO and founder of the company Home Hardening Solutions here in Grass Valley.
Awesome. Hi, I'm Patrick Farrell. I work here at Home Hardening Solutions. Um, yeah, I'll be giving the presentation today, and Connor's gonna be here helping. Cool. Go ahead and get into it.
Go ahead and
Sweet.
get into it. Let's go.
Awesome. So we're Home Hardening Solutions Incorporated. We're a home fire safety contractor up in Grass Valley, California. Um, we service Nevada County, Placer County, El Dorado County, sometimes Yuba County, and then up into Truckee and North Lake Tahoe. So a lot of work around the area, a lot of work in the Woo area. Um, so yeah, let's see, the slideshow work. There we go. So first, what is home hardening? So it's a method of using construction features like building materials and maintenance practices to make a structure more resistant to ignition from wildfire exposure, including direct flame contact, radiant heat, and flying embers. One of the biggest concerns for home hardening that we do is embers. Embers we're finding out like through the Tubbs fire and a lot of different studies through like the IBHS that embers are one of the biggest threats to houses during a wildfire event and can continue and make the fires worse. So embers is a big part about home hardening. Uh, so yeah, so here's the home ignition zones that we look at during home hardening. Zone zero, which you guys may have heard of, is the first 5 feet around your home. It's then known as the non-combustible zone. So this includes your home and then the first 5 feet. And in this, we really want nothing that's combustible. We want to be changing out building materials for non-combustible building materials, making sure they're all Class A fire rated. And then the area around, we want to not have vegetation, landscaping, or any of that in this area. And then zone one is the lean, clean, and green area. It's from 5 to 30 feet around your home. In this area, we can have some landscaping, but we want it to be sparse. We want it to be well irrigated and or a fire resistant species. And then getting into zone two, which is the traditional defensible space of the 30 to 100 feet around your home. This we really want to, we can kind of keep native, but we want to be reducing fuel volume. We want to be taking out ladder fields. We can keep some big trees as long as they're not a hazard tree and as long as they're well pruned. Um, yeah. So moving on. One big thing is inburn intrusion, like I was talking about. Some upgrades we do to stop this. Our vent zone zero, gutter topper, and roof cleaning. I'll play this video for you guys here. This is from an IBHS study. Um, Kind of really shows how these embers fly in, where they attack. You can see the zone zero here isn't clean. That's going to light on fire pretty soon. Um, you got the roof not cleaned, which also lights on fire. You've got the gutters not clean. And that just general maintenance of clean your gutters, clean your roof makes all the difference. And you really see how those embers really attack the home. Um, and the difference on the left there is a plastic gutter compared on the right is a steel gutter. Um, so yeah, there's a quick snippet of that. So embers are super important. They can come from miles away from a wildfire event. And yeah, it's a super big part of home hardening. Um, Connor, you have anything to add on any of this so far? Just jump in.
No, I don't. I mean, yeah, amber defense, right? That's the key is just really making sure that vents, the old vents had the quarter-inch screen on them. Now we like to go to 16th inch screen. It was eighth for a while. Now it's really 16th. And we like to use the Vulcan or now the V2 vent, which swells shut with heat and really kind of lets the hardy and these kind of sidings that, these fiber cement siding and or stucco or whatever it is, really lets it do its job. Because if you've got um, if you've got these vents with these big holes in them, it's just not letting the rest of what you've done do its job. So,
And when you
real.
guys say gutter topper, like I'm thinking of, I've seen those commercials for the things that keep leaves out of your gutter, but is this a mesh product or something else, or is it similar to those leaf guard type things?
Yeah, so we use a stainless steel mesh, is what we do. Leaf Guard is a company that has their own patented design, which works well. We use a stainless steel mesh, which works great with you got to get there and clean it, but that's with any gutter system. You're gonna have to get up there and clean it. That comes in with the maintenance here. Uh, in that definition, there's there's a maintenance about it. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So moving on, radiant heat and direct flame contact, I kind of couple them both in because this is once the wildfire is at your home, this is when this is going to happen. So this is where non-combustible building materials shine, defensible space, and then your sheds and detached garages and outbuildings are become really important in this. So for non-combustible building materials, like Connor was saying, we want to have fiber cement siding. We want to have Class A flame rated roofs, Class A flame rated decking, and then defensible space really shines in this. If you can take away a bunch in that fuel as it comes up to your house, the direct flame contact and radiant heat is going to be a lot less. And then sheds, detached garages, and outbuildings. So anything from a little shed out back or a gazebo with some vines growing on it. These can also all really increase your radiant heat and direct flame contact because they are flammable. So cleaning around these, having a true zone zero around these, and really trying to keep these things 30 or so feet away from your home is really important. Um, yeah. So then moving on into home hardening upgrades that we do. Here's a list of them. It's vents, roofing, gutter and gutter topper, siding, decks, fencing, defensible space, zone zero, eaves, windows, and doors. So we do all these things. Next, I'm going to go through kind of just each one by one, give you guys some pictures, some jobs that we've done, and then also just a little bit of background of what we do and things that we've run into out in the field and how we deal with it. Because there's a lot of retrofitting and different things that aren't standard. So, some vents are different than others. You got to go in through the crawl space and retrofit them from the inside. And others you can just, pop the vent out and put a new one in. It's super easy. But yeah. So talking about vents, as Connor was saying, the V2 vent is generally what we use. So it is an intumescent vent, which you can see down there. So mesh sizes is a 1/8 to 1/16. Ember mesh is code now. It prevents the screening from or prevents embers from blowing into these flammable parts of the house. Just right behind these vents is insulation, exposed wood, and it's really really important because these vents are made to draw in a house. So it really, really draws embers into these spots. So this ember mesh is really important and can really help reduce an ignition. And then you go on to intumescent vents, which is like a V2 vent. These are heat activated vents. They expand and completely block into flames and ember imagery. So this is when direct flame contact is in contact with the house or radiant heat. So these will expand. The way V2 vents work is they have an intumescent material and they have this honeycomb matrix, and it expands once the heat gets there, completely blocks it. They have a lot of cool, you can look them up online. They have a lot of cool demonstrations of this. Uh, so that blocks the things, so flames can't go in through your vent and get to that exposed material on the inside of your home. Um, and then, like I was talking about before, there's a lot of different retrofits. Here you can see is a gable vent in that picture there. These ones are often we go in behind, we put that honeycomb matrix behind the existing vent, and then we'll go ahead and put a 16th inch mesh behind that as well. Glue it all in, staple it in, make it all good. And yeah, Connor, anything to add on vents?
No, I would just say, a lot of times the retrofits fall into cases where maybe the house is stucco or something like that, and you're not able to easily remove and replace a vent when you've got, everything stuccoed in place, and you don't want to do a bunch of stucco repair and that kind of thing. So those are the situations when you run into needing to do retrofits often.
Yeah, stucco, stone veneer, those types of things. Yeah. Yeah, so the next facet of our company is roofing, roofing and gutters. What's really important about this, which is code in California, is in most places is a Class A fire rated roofing. So this is the whole system. So this includes, underlayment, valleys, the shingle. Um, yeah, so this provides a longer burn time. So if there is debris on the roof, your roof does catch fire. Um, this has a longer burn time than a traditional roof or like a shake roof, which is largely wood. Um, so a really important thing for this is regular cleaning. So as you can see, if there's leaves and debris on your roof, that ember intrusion, the ember is going to go right into those valleys, and they go to the same spots where your leaves are. So those things would catch on fire super easily, create a bigger fire on the roof, and decrease that burn time, even if because that fire is going to be hotter with that debris on your roof. And then another really important upgrade is metal valleys and cap sheet under valleys. So cap sheet is now code under valleys, which increases that burn time under valleys, just because that's where embers go, that's where your debris is. And then the metal valleys is there to help with the cleaning and help the shedding of those leaves, and as well as water runoff and increase that high impact water area. And then here at Home Hardening Solutions, we offer a fire rated roofing or a fire rated plus roofing package. In this, we use a titanium FR underlayment, which is a fire rated underlayment with the fire rated shingle. Just adds another layer of protection, which you generally don't have to use the titanium FR. But a lot of the homeowners around here, they do like using that. And then for metal roofs, you have to have a Class A fire rated underlayment underneath the metal roof. For a shingle roof, you don't. So that's something to think about. It also drives up the price of metal roofing as well. Is that Connor? Anything on roofing?
No, I think you pretty much covered it. I mean, yeah,
Patrick,
that's
one question I have, metal valleys and cap sheets. So
Mhm.
I'm guessing what you're talking about, like in the second photo where it shows leaves kind of there in the valley, that's the area where this metal piece goes. And so it's kind of almost like a gutter for the top of the roof, essentially.
Yeah, essentially, it's like a 2 foot wide piece of metal. You can see in the third photo here, uh, that valley right there does have a metal valley. So the shingles we put over the top of it, and then it helps shed um, the debris because with this valley in the second photo here, there isn't that, and it just creates more friction and allows for the debris to build up in those valleys a lot more.
Okay, gotcha. Thank
that's a weaved valley, that second one. Pat, are you able to zoom on those at all?
I don't think it will in the
That's the
presentation.
weaved valley. So that's like where all the shingles are just weaved together, just like it sounds, and it's all shingle all the way down. And so you can imagine with those granules on those shingles, how that would cause, friction and allow the leaves to build up against it and hold it in place. Whereas with the metal, it's smooth and sleek, and a little bit of wind will blow those, all the way off, but not always. We even see metal valleys holding debris. They're just a spot where everything's kind of meant to it's meant to collect the rainwater, and so it also collects debris in the same way. All the gravity just kind of takes everything down to that area. And so that's why the cap sheet, which is a mineral surface sheet of essentially rolled roofing that goes underneath of the metal valley and allows more burn time for that metal, in case that debris is built up and catches on fire. Because the embers inevitably will wind up where the debris winds up, same process, whether it's the wind the prevailing winds or the gravity that's bringing the debris into that area that the embers will follow. So it's really important too. It's same reason that we put the guards on the gutters, because otherwise lots of debris obviously builds up in the gutters and dries out throughout the summer and makes a real easy ignition point for fire. So real important to clean that off in the early part of the year, but also important just to be protected in case it goes unnoticed or uncleaned or something like that.
Yeah. Cool. Uh, Moving on. Yeah, talking more about gutters and gutter topper here. You can see the first picture here is a one without a leaf screen, or a gutter guard. So you can see how embers can fall right into that, light on fire. Um, so adding that leaf screen, adding a maintenance of cleaning and taking out that debris accumulation, super, super important. And then for material for gutter, steel or aluminum is pretty standard. There's not much plastic anymore, but it used to be plastic gutters. Those light on fire, obviously, as we saw in that ember video there. So always use steel or aluminum gutters. And then gutter topper helps keep leaves out, helps block ember entry. Yeah, pretty pretty straightforward on gutters there. Um, yeah. All right, moving on to siding, soffits, and eaves. So as we were talking about before, non-combustible siding, James Hardy siding is the industry standard. There's other ones out there. So this protects your exterior walls, and makes it non-combustible. So embers can hit up against that, or direct flame can hit your siding, and it won't combust, and won't start on fire. So this really couples really well with the intumescent vents. So if the vents and the flames, hit the side of your wall, that wall is going to be fully protected, and it's not going to get into your home and cause an ignition. So then talking about eaves, so enclosing your eaves with soffit, you can see in the second picture that's a enclosed eave. It has some eave vents in it as well. Those can get retrofitted out for, or put in with an intumescent vent, V2 vent type material. That's really important for your roof venting. So some houses have those, some don't. It depends how your roof is vented. Um, but yeah, so enclosing your eaves, super important. It really helps with the convective forces. So as you can see in the third photo here, this isn't, they're putting soffit on, which is good, but they're putting it on at like a 45-degree angle, or not a 90-degree angle. So once you do this, convective forces can go up, drive convection in that soffit and eave area, and then push embers into the vents of that area. So this is something that insurance companies are looking for, is that you have perpendicular soffit, like it is in the second photo here. You want that directly against the house, so the convection is a bit less. Um, yeah, I think that's all I have on siding and soffit. Connor?
No, that's it. I mean, it's a little harder to tell in that picture, but you can see that this is flat. So essentially 90 degrees to the wall is what we're talking about when we're
Yeah.
saying perpendicular. It kind of in this one you can tell is the lower one is at the same rake of the roof. So whatever the pitch of the roof is, whether it's 4 and 12 or 6 and 12. But this is better. The middle one's better. It lets the. Can you guys see my cursor or no? Maybe
Yeah, I can see mine.
it's yours. Yeah, yeah. So
Mhm.
that it lets that heat and the embers and stuff kind of get away rather than being trapped. So very important.
So let's say you had an older house and it was built with the 45-degree angle soffit.
Mhm.
Can you adjust that essentially to make it the 90 degrees so that it's like it is in the second photo, how you're saying it should be?
In most cases, yeah. The things that would prohibit that would be, sometimes we see windows and doors that are so close to the
Mm,
soffit line that when you go to try to frame back at that, perpendicular angle, then it would interfere with the top of the door, the top of the window.
Okay.
Um, that's not too uncommon, especially with older houses, because they're very commonly made with 8 foot, built with 8 foot walls. Whereas today we see a lot of houses being built with 12 or 10 foot walls.
Mhm.
Um, so but
That's
that
a, that's a, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that's one of the main obstacles that we run into. I mean, other than that, it's just a function of framing. It does take um, quite a bit of labor and it's just a lot of small pieces that have to get framed and fit into there in order to make that be level that way. Some of the other things we run into are when the rafters, when the fascia doesn't hang down below the rafters, then there's nowhere to kind of stop the soffit, so it winds up taking some sort of a trim or a metal, flashing or something like that. So there are different, every house is a little different, and so the applications are different. But I think the windows and doors is one of the main obstacles that's like really hard to get around because what are you going to do? You can't change those.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
That
so it's
makes me wonder about old homes versus new homes. Is the 90-degree kind of standard now for new homes, or do you still see them with the 45-degree angles as well? And or is it mostly older homes you're seeing with the 45-degree angles?
You see it both ways, but I think most people are picking up on it now, and they're going ahead and adding that soffit in ahead of time. See, a lot of times in the older homes, the soffits weren't even present at
Mm,
all. It's just the framing was
mm,
open, and so you'd have eave vents, some type of whether or not it was the holes drilled in the blocks, in the freeze blocks, or whether it was just a block removed and an eave vent put in where the block would have been. And that's all there is, and there are no soffits at all in a lot of the older houses. So that's what we wind up looking into trying to retrofit those. The insurance companies are asking for that a lot now, but the problem is that because of the amount of labor involved and the cost in doing it, it's sometimes almost impossible to recover that cost with the discount from the insurance company.
mm. Okay,
Um, so it's
interesting.
a bit cost prohibitive. I mean, it does look a lot nicer.
Sure.
It does give a fire rating, a better ability to stave off fire for the house. So there are some great values to it, but if the main goal is to try to get that insurance discount, it's really been a tough one.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to decks. We do a lot of decks. So yet again, Class A fire rated decking, super important. It's a lot now. There is some wood systems that are Class A fire rated, but majority of what we're putting on is composite material. Generally timber check, sometimes Trex, uh, Fibron's another one. So a lot of different types of material. So utilizing this material, super important. And then also one really important thing is deck skirting or deck mesh, and then no storage underneath these decks, under any deck is really important. So deck skirting, we want to use it mostly on decks under 4 feet. This is because they're a lot harder to get underneath, a lot harder to clean out, and they're more vulnerable to debris getting and building up under these areas. You can use a different, you don't have to use the mesh. The mesh is probably the more affordable option, but if you wanted to, you can, I think on the next slide, there's a picture of like a hardy siding on that for that skirting area. So that's another option. So yeah, but the idea of this is to block embers and debris from even getting underneath your deck. You don't have to clean it out. And then the idea about the 4 foot thing is if you get above 4 foot, it should be easier for you to get underneath, clean it out. The embers won't back up underneath there as much, and you can have your true zone zero underneath. But when it's below 4 feet, it's a lot harder to do that. And then no storage on your deck. A lot of times we see homeowners with, a bunch of stuff underneath your deck. They have a 10-foot tall deck, but they got a bunch of stuff underneath it. It's like, well, that's all that stuff's gonna burn. Like whether it's firewood or toys or anything like that, extra patio furniture or whatever is underneath there. Um, yeah. So that's super important. And then next slide here is just a couple more pictures of decks with some different options. You can see that composite decking over on the right side, and then on the left side is metal framing, which is becoming more common, a little bit more expensive. Usually we use a pressure treated framing, pressure treated lumber, which is rot resistant. And then down on the lower one is what I was talking about. You can use the same hardy skirting. You can frame it in, go ahead and put hardy siding around the bottom of your deck. So that looks good too. This is another option, a little bit more expensive, but just another option for your deck. Yeah. Connor, anything on decks?
Yeah, so those are actually the same deck, the two on the left, before and after we put the skirting on it. And you can actually see on the upper picture on the left where it's got a concrete foundation kind of looking, a footing all the way around, a stem wall we put all the way around it. And so with that one, because we framed it in steel, we thought, well, we're not going to go put, pressure treated framing underneath of it or anything. So we actually framed the wall in steel and then put hardy over the steel. So that wound up being a completely steel and concrete deck with a composite decking on
Yeah.
top.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool project.
That was a fun project.
Yeah. All right. Fencing. This is another one. Same thing. You want to use a non-combustible fencing material. Things like lattice fencing are really bad. Different, older wood fencing is pretty flammable. Using vinyl, boral is another one that comes up. Boral can be used for like fascia or other things as well. Relatively expensive, and then there's a lot of other composite options. I know TimberTech and Trex has a few. Um, and then one thing that we've done quite a bit is retrofitting. So we'll just replace which is what the insurance company calls out. We'll just replace the first like 5 to 10 feet of fencing that's touching the house with a composite material, so that it's like your fence is like a candle, and you just kind of be able to stop that flame before it hits your house, and that flame directly comes in contact with your house. And then below, so that's like a more cost-effective option rather than placing the whole fence. You can just replace that one little section, whether it be the gate or the last little piece next to your fence. Um, and then down below, just another composite material on the right. And then there's other options with metal and different fencing, depending on how much privacy you want, which is a different conversation of looks. And yeah. Um, Moving on to defensible space, super important. Removing ladder fields, cut low-hanging branches, and clear shrubs. This prevents that lot of fuels and creating that fire to be able to get a lot of different flames and get up against your house. Removing hazard trees is super important. Dead, dying, or structurally weak, because as soon as the fire comes, these become more structurally weak. Can fall on your house, can fall on first responders, firefighters. So getting those removed from your house is super important. And then also hardscaping. So we do a lot of concrete hardscaping, pavers, retaining walls, that kind of stuff. Super good option for a landscaping option, which creates a little fuel break. And yeah, clean gravel as well is really good. Been really popular in Zone Zero. There's like some lava rock that looks like a wood chip that is used a lot. And yeah, moving on to Zone Zero. So that, as I was talking about before, that 0 to 5 foot non-combustible area. You want to remove that with non-combustible materials, whether it's, you want kind of primarily rock and concrete, or just something that's no weeds and things that aren't going to be able to just like light on fire and burn right next to your home. And then if there is some landscaping, you want to be well irrigated, properly maintained, weeded, and pretty sparse. You don't want it to be very dense. Uh, yeah, which is, I know, interesting for a thing from California. As I've been growing up in California, is like drought resistant landscaping, and then so we're switching to drought resistant landscaping, and all of that is all flammable. Depends on what it is. Some things like succulents are pretty good for fire safety as well. But a lot of that drought resistant landscaping is it gets super dry in the summertime, so that's not very ideal. And then pruning and maintenance. So any big trees next to the home, you don't really want them hanging over the home. I know it's in Grass Valley, Nevada City, Nevada County. It's a defensible space code to get anything overhanging the home away. I don't know how far that goes. I don't think it goes into California. I don't know which counties it is in, but in our county it is. So you got to get those out from overhanging the home in a good distance away. Which makes sense. You don't want that tree to either fall on your home if it catches on fire, or to drop leaves on your home, or that branch comes off and burns on top of your roof, creating a bigger fire on top of your roof. So some important things to think about there. Anything to add on defensive space or zone zero, Connor?
No, I think you covered it well.
Sweet.
Patrick, Connor, let me ask you about, I'm curious about this, about zone zero. A big part of this competition for the students is thinking about aesthetics and making something beautiful. When you're working with homeowners typically, and you're not, you're really concentrating that 0 to 5 feet and not having anything flammable there, are folks worried about, oh, it's gonna not look pretty, or I really used to like my bushes that were right there? And what are those conversations like? Or are they saying, hey, I know I can't have a bush right here, but it's worth it to me? Or what? Yeah, what are those conversations like?
Yeah, you get both. I mean, you get people who are like, you know what, I know I'm supposed to get rid of those bushes, but I've had them for 18 years and I love them and I'm going to keep them.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that's just the way it is. Or you get people who say, oh gosh, but what's it going to look like? And I don't mind taking the bushes out, but they're traditionally the bushes are always there to kind of hide the foundation and hide the bottom of the house. And so now we have to find other ways to do that, whether it be a fountain or whether it be a statue, um, you know, uh, and just getting rid of that. We have to kind of think of landscaping differently, where we're looking out at it rather than looking at the house and seeing the landscaping. We're at the house looking out to the landscaping, right?
Mhm.
Um, the gravel, where that really works nicely against the houses, it actually kind of works as like a sink for the embers, where they'll sink into it and they'll get caught in the gravel rather than even, I mean, of course, concrete's great. It's non-combustible, but the embers are able to blow across it easier and get to the house.
Mhm.
Whereas the gravel, they'll actually get caught in it.
Mhm.
So it'll slow them down or put them out.
Yeah.
So that's something that's especially with any kind of amount of water, a little bit of water in with some gravel would really be a nice way to combat embers on the ground. But and like Patrick was saying earlier, he touched on earlier there are a lot of different options for gravel. It's not just the road rock that you see, on the side of the driveway, but you can, there's everything from salt and pepper to lava rock to, just so many different types of gravel out there now that it can complement what else a person has going aesthetically around their house. So
And then Patrick mentioned succulents. I mean, that one seems pretty obvious to me. And are there other planting types that can still go in that zone other than succulents, or are succulents kind of the go-to?
Yeah. I mean, zone zero, they want kind of nothing in it, even succulents.
Okay.
Some of there's like a few, but I it's leaning towards more that they're gonna be taking most of those out. They want that for truly to be, non-combustible, nothing that can really catch fire at all. But yeah, succulents, there's a lot. We don't do a whole bunch of landscaping. But there is landscapers know the those trees and bushes that you want, but you want them sparse and you don't want anything that's super dry.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
Okay. Great.
yeah, 5 feet, it's just recommended to have nothing, no plants at all. I mean, the succulents and those kind of things you start talking about are beyond that 5 foot area, even because even beyond the 5 foot area, you still don't want to get into these kind of the oily kind of super high fire danger kind of plants. Junipers and stuff like that are still good to skip on and go ahead with something that's going to hold more water. I mean, we even had a one customer who had a small, very well irrigated lettuce garden near her deck, and the insurance company wanted that ripped out and taken away. So sometimes, I think there's maybe not any some common sense involved in the decision making because I don't think lettuce is going to catch on fire, but it's check a box, and that box has to be checked. Is that nothing can be alive next to the house or adjacent to the house.
yeah. And then last few slides I have are just kind of things that we run into out in the field, common mistakes, and whatnot. So one thing is trash cans. Trash cans are flammable. What's inside your trash can is generally flammable. So getting these away from your home, not surrounding them in wood, like a wood lattice, really important. So that's one thing we see homeowners, like beautiful, like great home hardening, true zone zero, and then they got their trash cans up against the home covered in lattice and wood, and we're like, well. Like I know you don't want to look at your trash cans, but they got to be, a little bit further away from the home. Firewood, especially in our area, a lot of wood burning stoves, and a lot of people stack their firewood right up against their home. They have a non-combustible siding, Vulcan vents, and then they got firewood stacked right alongside of it. So really getting that firewood away from your home. It's a little bit of extra trudge, but super important. And then combustible like wood patio furniture. Either put it away, especially the cushions too. Cushions are very flammable. Put it away during the summer, which I guess is the time you want to use it, but get it away or bring it out when you want to use it, put it away when you don't. Because they can also trap, debris underneath that patio furniture, be combustible. So it's super important to be mindful of that, especially if you have a wooden deck or a different kind of patio can cause an ignition with that. Um, some constraints we talked about. It's a significant expense, especially some upgrades like residing your whole house, very expensive. Roofs are expensive, and especially on top of normal homeowner maintenance. Home hardening is expensive. So, and it oftentimes doesn't quite outweigh the rebate that you get from the insurance company. I know most of the ones we're seeing, I think around $800 and $900 a year in rebate. So, if you have one of these bigger upgrades, it could take years to pay that off in fire insurance. Um, so yeah, high quality building materials, super significant investment. And then like we were talking about earlier, it's like we live in the forest to live in the forest and be in the WUI area. So there is this balancing act between that, like, hey, I really love this bush. It's been here 15 years. It's my bush. I love it. Sometimes it's got to go. Sometimes you don't want to get rid of it. So working with homeowners to be able to be like, hey, like, like you can keep that one or like, what the insurance company is okay with it, but you got to take that one out. And they're often reluctant, especially with mature trees. A lot of homeowners are reluctant to get rid of those. So it's a couple things to consider there. And then another thing is every house is different. So every house's most important upgrade is different for every home. So things like topography, like is this house, the north side of this house is on an uphill slope, up big old uphill slope with the drainage coming up. Fire is going to rip up that. So we go talk to homeowners all the time, be like, hey, maybe you want to do that side of your house first, and then focus on the other side of your house in later years. So and like especially if that's the direction fire is going to come, change out those Vulcan vents, change out that siding. So another thing to think about there. Proximity to other structures. As we've been seeing more recently, like Eaton fire, Palisades fire, structure to structure ignition is very, very common, and is becoming an increasing threat. So it's like at the end of the day, firefighters say that homes they're just another fuel type. So we really got to be mindful of that. So if you're really close to another structure, maybe do that side first, especially if your neighbor hasn't done their maintenance, has an old roof, has a bunch of debris on the roof. So things about that, and then proximity to the vegetation that kind of goes with topography. If you got a neighbor that hasn't been doing their defensible space on one side that has a bunch of brush and a bunch of stuff, and you can't really clear it because it's their property, and it's only 30 feet away from your house, maybe that side is something you want to do extra clearing on, take out an extra couple of bushes, rather than your other side and keep your bigger trees on the other side of your home where your neighbor has done a lot of clearing. And then we've been seeing insurance requirements for each home very different. They ask for different things. Different insurance companies ask for different things. Same insurance company asks for different things because a different person came out and looked at it. So there's no one standard, and that's just insurance. One really common thing is we're seeing like a 6-inch non-combustible zone is coming out. So we can retrofit that. You don't have to change all your siding. You can, put a strip of hardy siding through that. Um, and then, keep the rest of your siding. So there's a bunch of different options for upgrades that, meet the requirements, but maybe aren't as expensive. And then, as I said before, most important upgrade is different for every home. It just really takes go and looking at the whole home, look at the whole system of the home, how it works, how this home hardening is going to work, and, give the homeowner idea of which say, I think this side is what you should focus on, or this is what you should do first. Um, and then last thing I like to say is the public good of home hardening. It's cumulative protection. No single improvement can save a home, but every improvement removes an opportunity for ignition in your own home. And this is the same for a community scale, right? So if you do your work on your home, that home is more resistant to an ignition or embers or this. It helps everyone in the community right down the line. So encourage your neighbors to do it yourself. And then, as I was saying before, the structure to structure risk becoming more common. So that it really helps with that. Is if you have three homes that are hardened and then one that's not, maybe the one light's on fire, but the other three are going to survive and be able to not let that spread further throughout the community. So another important thing there. Yeah, and then think back, the core goal of home hardening. Is make your home savable by firefighters. Make it something, if it looks super dangerous to them, they're going to, try less to save your home. If someone is less dangerous right next to you, they're going to go and try to save that one first. Because really it's a safety thing at the end of the day for firefighters, and a feasibility thing. Like they don't want to waste their time. So, uh, especially in an emergency setting. So clear your driveway, ensure that large emergency vehicles can safely enter your property, turn around. Super important that they can turn around and get away super fast if they need to. And then clear address sign so they know like, hey, this is your home. This is the one that we're trying to save. And yeah, that's super important. And they're the heroes that are gonna, make the decision whether your home's gonna be saved or not. Yeah. And then yeah, Connor, do you have anything to add on any of that? That was my rant.
Yeah, and I would say whether or not it's savable, right? Whether not
Savable, yeah.
whether or not it's savable. Winners and losers, is what they are, what they're considered. And if you can make your house a winner, then you're gonna attract firefighters and attract people that can come and help when the fire does come through. And that's the basic goal. But yeah,
Yeah.
other than working on the house itself, it is really critical to have the egress cleared and open and have that have signs if you've got water storage, um, or whatever you've got there that you can that'll help the firefighters save your home. It's good to make sure that they're aware of it.
Yeah. Make it a safer place for firefighters to be during a wildfire. Anything we can do to help them out in their job. Um, yeah, and I think unless Connor's got anything to add, that's all we have.
Great.
Unless you've got any questions, that's it for
Yeah.
me.
No, thank you both. That was a great presentation. Really interesting and helpful. I had two questions that kind of popped into my mind.
Totally.
One was, I know I've talked to you guys before. You have plenty of clients and people who, are asking for your services. What are the motivations that people have, homeowners in the Grass Valley area, when they're contacting you? Is it the insurance motivation? Is it just keep my home safe? What are those conversations like? What is moving them to call you and have you come out to their property and do work?
Yeah, we sure do get a mix of all of that. So sometimes it's just, hey, the insurance company dropped this letter on me and said I've got to do this or I'm getting canceled, and so can you help us with this stuff? Absolutely, we can help you. Oftentimes it's just somebody who needs a roof because their roof is gone bad at this point, and they would like to have it done by somebody with the fire in mind, and so it's not just about holding out water anymore. Your roof is really a very important part of holding out fire, keeping fire away. And then we get a lot of people who, hey, their roof is just fine, but it was put in 15 years ago and it doesn't have all the things that a Class A rated roof has now, and they want it torn off and just replaced because they want to have that extra step. Some real proactive people and others that are more on the reactive side, but we definitely get a cross section of everybody that
Mhm.
come.
Wondering too, the other question I had was, you were showing zone 0, 1, and 2. And I'm thinking, what about for homes that, we never get to zone 2 because they're only, say, 10 feet apart, or especially newer homes have like almost zero lot lines sometimes. But I think more so for like our competition, we're looking at a neighborhood in Grass Valley that has some homes with wider spaces between them and others that are kind of more on like what to call a typical lot that might only have, 10 feet or less between the two of them. Um, if that's the case, that you don't have, a whole lot of space between different homes, is the idea that really things like big trees shouldn't even be on the properties, or how do you think about that when you're not talking about I have an acre out in the country, but I'm more in a typical kind of neighborhood?
Totally. Yeah. Bigger trees are generally not a huge fire risk, especially mature trees. Especially if they're super healthy, limbed, and pruned properly.
Yeah.
They will drop, obviously, leaves, pine needles, in this area. So those things are you don't want them in your zone zero, obviously, which a lot of times in Grass Valley they are.
Mhm.
But yeah, I would say, if as long as it's not in your zone zero, if it's in that zone one, it depends on the tree, type of tree, how healthy it is. But yeah, typically sometimes you don't get that big tree in your backyard if you're living within city limits. But I know Grass Valley does have quite a few. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, these are a big part of what's the attraction to living here, right? So it's
Right.
like you have to find that balance of what to remove and what not to remove. I think it's important to remember that the zone ends at your property line. So if you're in zone, two and you're 35 or 40 feet away from the house and that's your property line, and that's the end of zone two. That's the best you can do. You can only go as far as you can. I think when you get into these spaces where you're 10 feet from your neighbor's house, I think one of the most critical things is what's in between, in
Mhm.
terms of whether or not a wooden fence
Right.
or if everybody stores their trash cans there, that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
what can we affect in between the two houses? Because we can't affect. There's going to be another house there no matter what. But what can we stop from helping, add BTUs essentially in between the two houses?
Mhm.
So that's really important. The real big trees that are within zone one, those are, those are still there for a reason because the person doesn't want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You have a hard time talking somebody into getting rid of those. It's kind of part of their whole place and everything to do with it. So, but a big tree in itself in the backyard or something like that, 10, 15, 20 feet away from the house, they're not big trees are resilient to fire. They've probably been through fires in the past if they're really old and they often make it through. And even when you look at a lot of these pictures and videos of these towns that have burnt down, Paradise and things like that, a lot of trees made it, and people are like, wait a minute, why did the houses burn and the trees?
Mhm.
The tree is full of water. I mean, a tree is just a big wick full of water. It would take a long time, heat, pushing against that tree before it would actually dry out and be able to burn. Whereas, lumber that's been in a house for 20, 30 years is bone dry,
Yeah.
uh, and primed to burn. So
Especially
quite,
with insulation and that kind of stuff there to, yeah.
Right.
yeah, yeah, carpet and, and all that. And I
Yeah.
think, it's, yeah, so, drapes or whatever, a lot of things that can catch on fire in a house. But yeah, I think the trees themselves and actual, just an actual tree trunk is not, it's not something to be afraid of in terms of fire. It's when they're bunched close together. They've got dry canopy. They've got fuel ladder that can go up and torch the tree and make the top of the tree light on fire. That's different.
Mhm.
But with that, absent all those things, the tree in and of itself is not something to be afraid of.
Okay. All right. Very last question. Cost. So one thing we're asking the students to do in the competition is consider costs when they are looking at an individual home and what mitigation efforts or upgrades could be done. Um, I talked to you guys a little bit about this before. Obviously, if you're doing everything from A to Z, it can add up to a big cost. Obviously, if you have a big, huge 40-foot deck, that's going to increase costs. But just wonder if you could talk a bit about when it comes to your customers, are most folks doing one or two things? Or are they doing kind of the whole, Cadillac package of everything? And then what are some of the maybe the more cost-effective mitigation efforts somebody can take? And then what are like the big ticket items?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we run into a cross section of all of that. Sometimes somebody will say, hey, you know what? Do everything, get
Mhm.
the whole we need a roof, we need a deck, we need siding, change out the vents, we need a new front door and do all of it. But it's very common, for people to say, hey, look, what can we pick off now and what can we do later? And what is that, most cost effective thing? And I really think every house is different, obviously, but I think it often comes down to vents. That's
Mm,
one. I mean, if there's
I
one
agree.
thing that I think that's that you get a lot of bang for your buck on, I think it's really the vent replacements and retrofits. It just everything else kind of doesn't do its job or isn't allowed to able to do its job if the vents are, if
yeah.
it's open to let the embers into your house. And you may never even see flames up close, but just embers alone will get in there and burn a house down. In some cases, 2 or 3 hours after the fire's gone through, the house burned down because the embers were kindling in the attic for
Mm,
that time. And so I think that when it comes down to it, that's one of the things I would say that's if you're trying to pick off a bit at a time, that's one of the ones to get done early on. And of course every house is different. Sometimes you might be thinking that, but then you go up and you see it's got a cedar shake roof, or it's got a deck that's rotting with debris all underneath of it, and this kind of thing. It's like, well, that's going to be pretty bad, and regardless of what kind of vent you have, or this kind of thing. So you never know, but I would say that, from a generic standpoint on across, X amount of houses, what would you um, shoot for first? I would say that's what I would go for first.
Yeah. And then the other parts of your question, like the big ticket items, um, that's probably going to be roof, full siding replacement. Oftentimes we'll just replace one wall just because siding's so expensive. One or two walls of the house. So roof siding, decks are really expensive nowadays.
right.
So a full deck replacement, it can, get upwards of $100,000 depending on the
Mm,
deck. Um, and uh I was gonna say land clearing, larger degree of land clearing, which I don't think is gonna be in this competition, but
mhm,
prices for land clearing are pretty high, especially if you have 10, 20 acres, it can get really expensive to clear that. Um, and then another thing that's really important, a good bang for your buck is, just going out, weed eating, clearing that, defensible space, whether you want to hire someone, depending on how overgrown it is, can make a huge difference. We do some defensible space, 100-foot like abatement for the county on like delinquent houses, and it's just phenomenal what we go in there and do in just a day or a two with the crew, and able to clear back 100 feet from out on the helm. That like these are houses where there's blackberries growing up to your roof. So like super overgrown houses. I think that's a pretty big bang for your buck if you haven't done that maintenance, or you want to get out on a cool weekend and go do some weed eating, or is can be super helpful. Bringing a dump trailer, a rock, or whatever it is, can be super something you can do on your own. And then also the firewood thing, you can do that on your own. Get that away from your house. Get combustible things away from your house. Tear down that lattice. Uh,
mhm,
and that stuff. And then deck skirting is another really important upgrade that isn't super, super expensive. You can get, all that debris from out underneath your deck, clean it out first, go and put that deck skirting on. That's a pretty good one. And then, as I was talking about, that 6-inch non-combustible zone from the ground. So you have your zone zero, you have your 6-inch non-combustible, whether that be your foundation or a retrofitted in piece of hardy into your wood siding or whatever it is. That could be a really good upgrade as well.
right. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. I think this is a great presentation. I think it'll be a great resource for our competition participants. And in our guidebook that we are going to distribute to all the participants, we do say that if you all have questions for Home Hardening Solutions, they're happy to answer your questions. All we ask, though, please send them first to our official email address for the competition. Don't try to contact them directly. They're busy working, but we will take a look at your questions. And if it's a question that would be good for them to answer, we'll forward it on to them and they can take a look. So So again, thanks, Connor. Thanks, Patrick. Appreciate you guys, and have a good rest of your day.
Awesome. Thank you,
All right.
David.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot, David. Take care.
Thank you.